Welcome to T4G Sports. In today's video, we are going to be doing our predictions for Week 6 in college football. And this is an exciting time because now you're starting to see identities emerge, conference play, the shift of power. And it's an intriguing time in college ball. So let's see if we can get some of these predictions correct for you guys. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and comment down below your guys' thoughts on some of these games. Who do you think is going to win? And let's light it up, guys. Let's go have some fun. Clemson versus Florida State. I think Clemson dominates Florida State in this one. I think they're just going to dominate them. In the spread, Clemson's favored to win by 14.5 points. I would expect them to win by more than just that. Now, this one's tough because Miami has a target on their back. Cal's 3-1 on the season. Cal just came off of a terrible loss and then went to a bye week. So Cal's had plenty of time to prep for this. So I think Cal could honestly win this game. I really do. But Cal has a problem with finishing off opponents entirely. They are missing that fourth gear at times, and that's something that concerns me with Cal on actually competing with Miami for 4 quarters. Miami has issues. They are not an unbeatable team by any stretch. I think Miami ends up winning this one. I think they win by more than 10 points. SMU versus Louisville. I got to give it to Louisville. SMU has a great offense, and they average 75 yards in penalties per game. And look at the score differences. Look how much they score, and they average that many penalty yards. That is insane. So that should tell you just how good SMU can be when they want to be. Problem is that the reason I have a tough time grading SMU in this is you played one away game, and it was in the beginning of the season against Nevada. And you're averaging a lot of penalties right now. It tells me you're going to have some more penalties in this game because this is going to be a loud crowd. So I think Louisville's going to win it because SMU might get in their own way. And if they don't get in their own way, this could be a hell of a game. It can come down to the wire. SMU can win this one, or Louisville can take it. It can go back and forth. This is 2 scrappy football teams that you really don't want to play because neither one is ranked really that high, but they can beat some highly ranked teams at the same time. So you want to be careful of both of these teams. I'm excited to watch this game. I think Louisville pulls this one out. Baylor versus Iowa State. Iowa State has a very good defense. They're going to be playing at home. Baylor's odd because, like you've seen with the Colorado game, they were up and then they allowed Colorado back in the game. But then you see against BYU, they were down and then they came back into the game. They have a more talented team than you would think just by looking at their record. However, you're playing at Iowa State. I think Iowa State is just a very aggressive football team. They don't make a hell of a lot of mistakes. They run the ball well. Defensively, super aggressive. A lot of guys, a lot of hats on the ball. I like Iowa State to win this one. I think it could be closer for comfort for Iowa State because Baylor can play better than you think. But at the same point in time, I just don't think Baylor will have enough in the tank to play 4 quarters of ball with Iowa State. I could see them winning by more than 12.5 points. I could definitely see that. You got UCF, who is tough to grade because you don't know what the hell you're going to get, versus Florida, who's tough to grade. You don't know what the hell you're going to get either. You're playing at Florida. I think Florida's going to win this, and I think they win by more than 2.5 points. Michigan State heading to Eugene, Oregon. I got the Ducks winning this one, but I think it could be a game if Michigan State just gets out of their own way. 5 TDs, 8 interceptions by their quarterback, Childs. Good quarterback, he just makes mistakes. Some are not all his fault, but others are just bad reading, bad decision making, and I think Oregon's defense is going to take them through on this one. So I got Oregon winning this one. So we got UCLA versus Penn State. I think Penn State's going to win this one. They're playing at home. I think they're going to beat up on UCLA a little bit there. I don't think they're going to win by 28 points. I don't believe that. That's just not quite how Penn State is built. They're a good football team. They're a great football team, but they're going to maul you for quite some time. They're definitely going to maul the shit out of you. That's just kind of what they do. It's going to be an interesting one. I'm curious to see what kind of UCLA team we're going to get out of this. Now, what a game this is going to be. Iowa versus Ohio State playing in the shoe. I think Ohio State's going to win this one because, for one, Iowa's offense is just not good. Not great at all. I mean, they can play great. They can play above their britches, but when they have to pass their way out of a game, no, it's not good. So their run game is going to have to be solid, very solid in this game if they want to beat the Buckeyes. Defensively, Iowa is a juggernaut on defense. Their defense is fantastic. But if they have to pass their way out of anything, it's like, hold your breath. Hold your breath. So I think Ohio State ends up winning this one. I think it could be sloppy at first, and then I think Ohio State will start to click. And then once they start clicking, I think Iowa's probably going to be in trouble. And I think at the end of it all, I think Ohio State scores more than 18.5 points. That would just be my guess. We got Indiana versus Northwestern. Indiana is very well coached, great on defense. Offensively, they can be great. They make some mistakes that can be cleaned up. The more that they play, I think the better they're going to be. I think Indiana wins this one, and I think Indiana wins by more than 14 points. That is what I'm going with. So Nebraska is good. Don't get me wrong. They got a really good passing attack. Their running is okay. It's complete opposite for Rutgers. Rutgers is going to maul you. Rutgers is going to run a very annoying offense against your defense because they're going to run on you. You know who's going to get the ball too. And then what they're going to do is they're going to do fake handoffs. And they're going to send a guy out to the flats and throw to him real quick. And he's going to turn around and gain 10 more yards on you, 8 more yards on you. And they're just going to drive you nuts all game long. They played at Virginia Tech, ended up winning that. It was a nail biter. And I think that Rutgers is showing that they could finish. Why I'm going to choose Rutgers to win this game. Nebraska, they have Nebraska winning this? Whoa. Boy, oh boy. That's amazing. I don't doubt it. But at the same point in time, what I worry about with Nebraska is they have trouble finishing games. And I just think when you're in a fist fight that you're going to be in with Rutgers, having issues with finishing games, like against Colorado, it was 28-10. They scored 28 points in the first half, never scored a single point in the second half. Illinois, they had plenty of opportunities to seal it out with Illinois, didn't. And then even Purdue, it's like they're just not finishing some of these teams, and that's what I worry about with Nebraska. So I'm going to choose Rutgers to win this one. That's interesting. Wow, that is interesting. I wouldn't be shocked either way. I could totally see it going the other way as well, but I'm going to choose Rutgers. Michigan versus Washington here. I think Washington pulls this one out of their ass. I do. I think them being at home, it's more than just these two playing. Like, they just played last year for the Natty. Now they're playing again. You're playing at Washington. I think the crowd's going to go nuts. I think the crowd is going to go absolutely nuts, and it's all dependent on Washington's offense. Can they score? They just had an absolute dogfight with Rutgers, and Rutgers is a pain in the ass. And you basically just got a window into how Michigan's going to be. Rutgers is very similar to Michigan. And so I think that kind of favors them a little bit on this. I think Washington ends up pulling this one out. And it's going to be an interesting game here. Of course, Michigan can win, but you're playing at home. I don't know. I got to give it to Washington on this. USC versus Minnesota, and this is a shitty game to play if you're USC because there's no winning when you play Minnesota. Minnesota's not a fun team to play because they could take it to you. Ask Michigan. When you're playing a team like Minnesota, if you struggle with them, they're like, you struggled against Minnesota. If you beat Minnesota, they're like, yeah, you beat Minnesota. Even if you dominate Minnesota, they're like, okay, yeah, you dominated Minnesota. Like, don't crown yourself. There's no winning. I'm telling you right now, if you're a USC fan, expect it now. The world will not care how tough Minnesota is. You're playing at Minnesota. They have something to prove. They just tasted blood in the water with Michigan. And they're one of those teams that's just going to try to pummel you. But I think USC will win this one because of Miller Moss. I think he's the X factor. He's that guy that even when guys are in his face, he's just cool, calm, and collect. He is so focused on winning that I think if he plays his best ball or even, good ball, I think USC ends up winning this one. Minnesota's tough, though. They are very tough. They have a D-line that is going to come after you. And they don't get the respect they deserve because they don't win. But that doesn't mean they don't pummel other teams in the process of losing. So I got USC winning this one. I think USC would probably win more than 8.5 points. Syracuse versus UNLV. UNLV is favored to win by a pretty good portion there. I mean, 79.4%. That's pretty solid, I will say. I think the crowd's going to be bumping. I think it's going to be tough. I really think it's going to be tough here. I think Syracuse has everything it takes to pull up an upset here on this one. They lost against Stanford. Okay, Stanford's one of those teams that's just odd. They're odd to play. They got really good playmakers. They have NFL talent on their team. It's not filled with NFL talent, but there are guys that are talented enough to start on NFL rosters. Not a lot of them, but they're there. You look at UNLV, they've just dog-walked everyone they've played. I mean, besides Kansas, and Kansas is kind of one of those odd teams too that they could just play really good football. I mean, it's just It's kind of up in the air on that. Now, the whole Saluka ordeal, the only thing I'll say about it is I have no idea if UNLV did that or not or whatever. I have no idea. All I'll say is this, okay? If you are going to pay a player and you said you were going to pay a player and you don't pay that player, I believe that player has every right to walk away from your program. That's my opinion. These universities have made too much money on these players for so long that I think it's great for these some of these players all of the players to get what they're worth. Now, I think Syracuse is going to win this one, and boy, oh boy, I mean, it's tough. It's tough to pick a winner out of this. Really tough, because Syracuse also has not played a road game. So that's going to be new for them, and I don't typically like to pick guys that are not favored and on a road game, but at the same point in time, Kyle McCord, if he plays his best ball, I think Syracuse wins this one. But would I be shocked if UNLV wins? No. I mean, I'm not shocked at anything at this point in time. Some teams, sure, but this game, I wouldn't be shocked. So I think Syracuse ends up pulling this one out. So we got Missouri versus Texas A&M. I got Texas A&M winning this. Would not be shocked if Missouri wins this. I think it's all based on Cook. I think Missouri's defense will play good enough to keep him into this, but it's up to Cook on how well he plays. I don't trust Cook right now. And so I think that Missouri is in a little bit of a shaky spot here. They've shown that they can be beat, and you're going to play in a very loud atmosphere that I think is going to be bumping on Saturday. I think they're going to be bumping. It's a 10 a.m. game, so it's really not that like crazy bumping, but it could get loud. It could end up getting pretty loud for them. So I have Texas A&M winning this one, but again, I wouldn't be shocked if Missouri makes it a game. I would not be shocked at all. Auburn heading to Georgia. I got Georgia win this one by more than 22 points. If they don't win by more than 22 points, I'm concerned about Georgia because you just lost to Alabama in an ugly fashion. Carson Beck looked like he shit his pants, if I'm being frank with you. And it just wasn't good. But now I think it's good, the result of it, because now you're going to be playing with a chip on your shoulder, and Georgia hasn't typically done that. They've played with a chip on their shoulder when it comes to individual teams like Alabama, but now they're going to be playing with a chip on their shoulder, at least they should be, every week. So I think some of these teams are going to feel their wrath on that. And they have a very good team. So I think they are going to beat Auburn. Auburn, I don't care what SEC fan out there is trying to convince me that Auburn's some kind of golden goose because they're in the SEC. You lost to Cal, who lost to Florida State. Okay, Arkansas has a wonky offense. It's wonky. Arkansas is not a terrible football team, but their offense is odd. Their quarterback throws much better outside of the pocket than inside the pocket. That's for damn sure. OU, against that game there, that's a brand new SEC team coming in, and your crowd was bumping. You want to welcome him to the SEC, like, welcome in, we just beat you. You didn't. And I think that they just make too many mistakes on Auburn that I think this is going to be an ugly game. At least it should be. Ole Miss heading to South Carolina. Here's the thing. Ole Miss, I believed, was overrated coming into this season. I didn't put them in my top 15 last week. Didn't put them in my top 15 this week because I wanted to see them beat a team like South Carolina here. That's what I want to see. You know, it's a good team. Ole Miss is a good team. They got a solid defense. Offensive line is solid for the most part. Run game, pretty sufficient. And passing attack can be very good at times. For South Carolina, they're playing at home, and their crowd gets really loud. It's a 1:30 game. This is going to get loud. It's good weather as well. South Carolina, the big standout areas for South Carolina is their defense. They're going to sack the quarterback. They will get to Dart. It's just a matter of time. Their defense is very aggressive. They're very good at disguising their blitzes. You don't really know where it's coming from. You just know it's coming. Now, sometimes they have a tendency to blitz too much, which leaves their DBs on an island. And that's something I noticed, and that's where big plays can come. If Ole Miss comes out quick and in a hurry and starts, getting that crowd out of it and scoring on them multiple times without allowing South Carolina to score, then Ole Miss is a great opportunity to win this game. They got to get the crowd out of it. You have to get the crowd out of it. If you don't, it's going to be very tough to finish them off. South Carolina, what I'm worried about is who's going to be starting at quarterback. Is it really going to be Sellers, or is it going to be Ashford? I don't really know. Sellers is better than Ashford, but not such a huge margin that it's insane. They have designed pass plays where it's like, hey, look for this guy, throw to this guy type thing. And, they can process the field, but they're not like exceptional in that regard. Neither Sellers or Ashford. They're not exceptional. Ashford had a good game against Akron, did well against Akron, ran all over them, and passed well, passed sufficient against them. Ashford you could tell he's not like super confident in my opinion, but he can play good. I mean, if he plays with confidence, he can play good. He doesn't know how talented he really is, in my opinion. Sellers, though, is the more polished guy of the two, and we don't know how he's going to come back from injury. So it's kind of like, if he does play, it's like, how is he going to play? I don't know. Is he gonna be thinking about that ankle? We really don't know. South Carolina, though, their defense just gives them so much of an opportunity to win this game. And if Ole Miss comes in and does well, then that shows that Ole Miss can play at a really high level, because I think South Carolina is better than what people think they are. And you know what? I'm going to go with the upset on this. I'm going to go with South Carolina. If Sellers is in and Sellers plays good ball, I think they can win. And I think they'll use that crowd and that defense. And it's going to be very tough, because even LSU's quarterback, Nussmeier, he is a fantastic quarterback. He's very good at processing, very calm in the pocket, even when being blitzed. And he struggled. And that offensive line for LSU struggled. So I just think that South Carolina is going to come out swinging, and I think they're going to end up squeaking their way out of this one.